You were sworn in days ago in a rather beautiful and elaborate ceremony. First question, what's it feel like? Is the shock worn off yet? Do you feel like you're kind of settling in?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting us. Just really hit yesterday once we came in, but yeah, as you had mentioned, the inauguration I think was real exciting to have, and it's real good turnout. As far as yesterday and today, it's been busy week, all day yesterday. Just a little bit of lunch, I think, drunk water, about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been good. Had myself and second chief had several meetings throughout the day, and today this morning just hit the ground running. So we've been able to do, and great communication with the staff and cabinet. It's been great so far.
Yeah, I just reiterate some of the thoughts of Chief Hill. The first inauguration, I mean, it was everybody that was involved in the inauguration. I mean, it was just first class. I mean, I can't thank enough all the people here at the tribe that had a hand in preparing the inauguration, and the people at the River Spirit Resort. I mean, they were just. There's a reason why that resort is a top-notch facility, and I have heard nothing but positive feedback about the inauguration, and so I just can't commend our staff enough of the time and effort that they put into the inauguration, and so and it was a good time to showcase our facility also, and so I thought it went really well. It was a long day, but it was a great day though. I mean, it was really a great day. And then we turn around, and I don't think we had much of a rest on Sunday.
No.
And then today, you talk about hitting the ground running. I mean, it was from 8:30 till about 5:30 yesterday, and then I was getting emails from Chief at 9:30, 9. Yeah, I mean, so. But being on council, it kind of prepares you for this. I mean, because being on council, it never stops. So, and being in this position, it never stops either. You just have an office to work out of. So so Chief is right. It's meeting after meeting after meeting, and you might throw an interview in there every now and then. And but it's great. It's great. I mean, this is what we signed up to do, and so it's a good situation.
Well, both of you gentlemen have mentioned the facility, which was gorgeous. It set up just wonderfully. Yeah. Without being too elaborate, it was wonderful for the occasion. Mm-hmm. But I remember in your presentation, Second Chief Beaver, that you mentioned you'd gone from a bingo hall mm-hmm. to this new facility. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to, I guess, ask you gentlemen, that would be incredibly symbolic. And for each of you, what would that represent? How do you feel about going from A to B?
Well, I grew up right across the river in Jinx, and so I can remember going to the bingo hall with my mom. She loved to play bingo, and so I would, when the days evenings I'm not doing anything, I would go play bingo with her. And so just to see the development there, I mean, I remember vividly. There's nothing there. Where that QT is down the road, that was a soccer field. I remember coming in out of Jinx on the pedestrian bridge. That was the only way into Jinx at that time. So just being able to see the development and the Creek Nation being a big part of that. I mean, a huge part of that, the development of South Tulsa. I mean, I'm just so proud to see of us being a part of that, and really a driving force of that development in the South end of Tulsa. So it's just been something that I've always taken a lot of pride in the tribe of what they've done, and what are the previous administrations what they've accomplished, and then you just see the next administration build upon that. And so now it's our turn to build upon what the previous administration has done. So.
Chief Hill?
I was going to touch on that as well. Serving on the council whenever the first River Spirit, during AD's term, that was a great accomplishment, serving that. And also in the beginning stage of the hotel and casino was Tiger administration. And to see it completed in Floyd's administration, the hotel and the expansion, just being part of those three administrations made as a second chief was saying, to see all that come up, the economic development throughout in Tulsa area, being the #1 for the last 2 years, it says it all for Creek Nation, and that's why I wanted to at the inauguration to recognize a former chief. Chief Cox, Chief Beaver, Chief Ellis, Chief Floyd, Chief Tiger, and Chief Five. I think they all need to be recognized because each one has set a foundation for the next previous chief. So it's up to me and second Chief Beaver to carry on tradition, to see what we can do to improve what they have left for us to do.
Okay, let's move on to some of the tougher topics that you will be dealing with. I remember when Chief Floyd came into office, he had that huge fiscal crisis. People were losing faith in the government. Real turmoil. You come into office facing huge challenges also. First of all, the governor and his stance on the gaming compacts. And we're waiting on a decision on our sovereignty from the U.S. Supreme Court. Monumental challenges, huge challenges. What are your thoughts on dealing with those?
As far as governor pertaining to compact, we're going to stay united with the other tribes, and also in the same sense protecting our sovereignty as well. And I will stand behind, which we have our intertribal meeting this week, and I'm pretty sure that will be discussed. I also have a meeting tomorrow with the all tribes, and again we're going to stay united, and that's the only way we're going to get past this. What's your sense on that?
As far as the gaming compacts, there is no other stance. It's an issue that we've all united behind. We all agree on that they automatically renew, and I'm interested to see how that's going to move forward. Obviously on our part, business as usual. We saw that at the casinos. So. But there's still what I hate to see is that relationship being strained between us and the state. We're not going anywhere. We are part. When they talk about doing what's best for the citizens of Oklahoma, we are citizens of Oklahoma. We're not different from anybody else. So I just hate to see that issue kind of trying to turn one against another. So that to me that's part I hate seeing. Because we're not going anywhere. We are Oklahoma. So that's really the issue that I just really take offense at. But other than that, we are united. The tribes are united in agreement that the compacts renew.
One more question in that vein. Last 3 governors have had a Native American staff person, and then that got elevated to a secretary, cabinet secretary. But we really never saw anything come out of those positions. As a matter of fact, one of them, the only thing she did was for her own tribe, and then she became a chief there. And then the other 2 seemed like they were, as the term goes, window dressing on the set. And we saw Ms. Billy recently resigned over these issues. This kind of situation, do you think, sour the relationship between our tribe and the governor's office?
I think to some degree. Miss Billy, I don't think she was utilized like she should have. She did report out to Intertribal. She was for the tribe and did what all she could to represent us to the governor. But I don't believe the governor had reached out to her and utilized her on what she should have done and what he did. I think she should have played a big part of that and had more communication with him to the governor. But I do commend her for what she had to do. She stood up for her rights as being a tribal member herself.
Yeah, I totally agree. Obviously, I think the relationship has soured a little bit, but time heals wounds. All wounds. So it's not too late. It's not. It's just, it really comes down to, communication, open communication, honest communication, being sincere about what you say and and doing what you mean, do what you say you're going to do. And so, and I just, I felt, I don't want to say bad for Miss Billy because I think she did the right thing. I just feel bad that the governor put her in a difficult situation, and I feel that she did what she had to do. So I commend her for that.
Okay, the second part of that question deals with the sovereignty. The cases before the Supreme Court looking at jurisdiction of the Creek Nation, whether or not we have a reservation, Mr. Murphy's case, and then there's another one on there. I forget the gentleman's name, but yeah, thank you. They're both asking the same question: do we exist as a reservation, quote unquote, or not? So how? And we're waiting on the Supreme Court to at least announce a date.
Right.
So where do we go from here? What do you have any plans?
That's a subject we'll have to dig more into. Most likely to get with our attorney generals and the attorneys that work in this case to get more familiar with it, because we basically just kind of let them handle that. But it definitely will affect us.
Oh, yeah.
We just have to be prepared.
I understand the Supreme Court bringing in the McGirt case. I'm not real familiar with the McGirt case, but I understand the tie-in to the Murphy case. And if the Supreme Court needs more information, then by all means, that's their right to have more information. And if that's what they need to make a decision, then let's give them all the information they need. And so I understand the magnitude of this decision. And it's obvious considering how long it's taken them to make a decision. Mm-hmm. So and to rehear a case, I don't think that's that's not very that's unusual, I think. But it's the Supreme Court. They got to make a decision sometime, right? So nobody can push them to make a decision when the time frame is. But whatever information they need, then let's give it to them. And if that's what they need, then I'm all for it. But I don't think our stance has changed at all. It's from what I understand. So when we were there the first time, I don't know much has changed from the second time that we'll be there. So and like Chief Hill said, we're keep on getting updated from the AG's office, and we have people in DC that updates us, and so we'll be ready whatever decision comes.
Let's bring the focus back here in Okmulgee and the Mvskoke Creek Nation. The biggest item, of course, every year is the budget. The money that we've got to work with, spend things we're obligated for. And I know you've just settled into the chairs and haven't tackled it to any extent, I should imagine. How are we doing, do you think? Do we got enough of a resource here to work with for any plans you may have, or are there any budgetary challenges on the horizon?
Well, actually, this morning we had our investment committee meeting. I think we're going to review what all we have as far as in our investment. I think there's some other avenues I think we discussed this morning that's going to benefit us. And as far as all the economic development that we have, or MMBE or One Fire, there'd be another avenues that we have to look to see what we can do as far as the budget-wise. I did request for the whole budget for the nation again today. Hopefully we'll get that and review what all we have. The carryover from last year, just kind of have to go through each department and see where we're at.
Yes.
Second, Chief.
I think that Chief Wood has done a wonderful job of keeping us in budget. So he left us in good hands. So as far as budget goes, we're within budget. We can cover our budget. Chief Flo is very fiscally responsible. So I think it's just up to us to keep being fiscally responsible. And we're not hurting at all. I don't believe. But we just have to be responsible with the resources that we have, and that's what Chief Hill had mentioned, is that what's best for the nation, you know. And so that's what we got to keep in mind at all times, is what is best for the nation, not what's best for somebody that's outside the nation, but what is best for the nation and our citizens. So that's something that we keep in the back of our mind, well, actually not in the back of our mind, but it's at the forefront, you know, what's best for the nation.
This next question deals more, again, with the internal relations between our peoples. You've got 3 tribal towns out there, and a couple of them have looked at going their own way. First of all, do you plan to make any outreach to places like Tlaplaco, the one that was looking at its own casino possibly? How do you see that going?
I was contacted by one of the Micos at the tribal town, and we'll probably have a meeting coming forth to any discussion that's out there. Just have that relationship at first to meet and greet, so to speak, and we just go from there. See how we can work together to make all of us better. You know, all having the relationship with Creek Nation and 3 tribal towns. I think you'll, you know, that. See what we can do to help each other.
You know, Chief Hill has done a great job of establishing those relationships, and that's what I look forward to, is meeting with the Micos and the tribal town leaders, and just establish a relationship, because I don't know in the past how strong those relationships have been, but they are citizens. They're our citizens. So we have to, you know, and try to help out and see, you know, find some common ground of how we can help each other. And you know, they are federally recognized, but they're still Mvskoke, you know. So yeah, it's important that we establish relationships and establish that line of communication.
Let's move now to a question that's really near and dear to my own heart, and that's freedom of the press. We had pushed, our crew had pushed to have that established. At one point it was there. We were looking good, felt good. And then we heard some rumblings from National Council, and it got changed and was placed back under administrative rule. Where do we go now? You know, to be quite honest, our staff have felt kind of like we had been under assault for a bit. And I have to admit that Chief Lloyd never really interfered with what we did, except for the money end of it, and Commerce took care of that. But you've made a statement now to Tulsa World about freedom of the press. It was included in the statement you made, and we wanted to get a feel for where you gentlemen think it ought to go, and where do you see freedom of the press fitting into perhaps the Constitution.
Again, I always said, you know, there are several legislation that I sponsored for the freedom of the press, and that's one of the subjects that I do want to communicate with the department. What can we do to make it better? What can we do to work together? And like I said, as far as shouldn't be no interference from any political standpoint, and I'm willing to sit down, and as well as second chief, we have discussed that. What are we going to do? You know, and that's why we will have to communicate with the department. You know, it just won't be our input. It's going to be everyone. What can we do to make this better? Because you know, freedom of press, that's your liberty to speak, regardless what's news out there, bad or good. You know, you see it on the television, newspaper. It's news, and that's another way of communicating with the citizens that live outside of our jurisdiction boundaries, outside of the state. That's, a lot of times that's their only way of knowing what's going on in our government. That's why I want to improve communication to citizens here and as well as at large.
Yeah, I think if you go back to our voting record, we've always been in favor of freedom of the press, and definitely wasn't for lack of trying. I mean, it's it was a tug of war for a while, right? You know, so we even tried to make it a constitutional issue, and it didn't pass. So but you know what? The way I see it now is you got to make the best of the situation that you're presented with. And I think when we sit down and talk about it, because quite honestly, we just haven't had time to sit down and talk about it yet. We've had sidebar conversations about it, but we hadn't had opportunity to really sit down with Mvskoke Media and in this capacity and talk about the future of Mvskoke Media and what's best for Mvskoke Media, because who knows best what's best for y'all than the media, right? So I'm not a media person. I don't want to tell y'all what to put in the news. So that's not that's not what I went to school for, right? So that's really the last thing on my mind is editing or anything like that. So I think that's something on the horizon for us is we got to get this worked out and see how within the framework that we're presented with, how can we make the best of the situation.
Let me throw this in situations that I've been aware of and throughout my career, when these kind of head-butting situations come up, there's been a meeting between the people who were concerned and the editorial board. Mm-hmm. They sat down and talked with each other. Now, to this day, we have not seen that kind of thing happen. So would that be a way to go? Would that be something you guys would look at?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let me move on to some of the other ones. Now, the big ones, of course, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, is economic development. We seem to have been making some good choices in the past. Things are moving along. I haven't seen any glaring deficiencies. There may be, here and there, but what kind of things do you gentlemen think are on your horizons now that you're here at the leadership of the Mvskoke Creek Nation? Any projects, anything there?
Not right at the moment. Just kind of, like you said, we're hitting the ground running to make sure we have everything set in place first. But with my background in the oil field industry and as well as the aircraft industry for 30 years, I would like to pursue some of those issues, but also communicating with One Fire Holding Company and as well as MBE. I know that they do a lot of government work, so I like to implement and also utilize our MBE company that we have. So to see where we can go on the government side of it. So there's different opportunities that we have, but actually having the right person in place is what it's going to take. And that's what I want to do. I want to hire the right person to get us there. I'm not going to know all the answers, but I have to rely on the person that I put in there and to get us there.
Yeah. That's what it's all about. You got to get the right people in those positions. Chief Hill and I, we're just there to, to make sure that our vision is met, and our vision, I think, is everybody's vision. We want to be successful, right? Obviously, last spring we saw the need for diversification in our businesses, but it's all about getting the right people in place, the right leadership, and I think we'll have to look at kind of the way things are set up, organizationally wise, but I think there's some projects on the horizon that we're going to look at, and I think we're set up right now. I think we're doing very well, and maybe to look at increasing maybe the agribusiness part of the tribe. I think we turned a corner on that, and I think we're doing really well. I've heard some good reports from our cattle operation. So I think in those areas, those are the type of areas you got to support. Once they've turned the corner and they're showing a market improvement, then that's the things. Hey, we really need to start capitalizing on the opportunity we have here. So what else do we need to make sure that we're still improving that area? We're still taking advantage of what we have. So if you look at it across the nation, we got land. So how can we take advantage of all the land that we have? We got highways, interstates, freeways, whatever going through our nation. How can we take advantage of that? So those are things that we have to look at and get the right people in place to make sure that we can take advantage of our opportunities.
The federal government plays such a huge part in our existence, so to speak. The current administration.
Don't give them too much credit, all right? Yeah.
We have to. My wife used to work for the BIA. Anyway, we were looking at the actions of the current administration, the president, over the past several years, and even before, when he was in the gaming industry, unsuccessfully, by the way. And the relationship is always fluid. It's always changing. Where do you see us going now in relation to the federal government? Do we need to stand back and say, hey, you guys back off, wait a minute, or come on, we've got some ideas that we think will work that we can get together on? Where do we stand with the feds?
Well, that's a big part. You said communicating. So that's one of the first steps first, communicate with them. To see basically where he stands. I mean, don't know what the next election is going to be as far as our government, the president and all, but that's something I'm going to have to check into. I mean, both of us, we're going to have to work together and just basically put our heads together as to where we need to go from here.
Yep. And I think we've had conversations, not quite about this, but about our sovereignty, and we feel that it's never a good issue to stand back and let other people determine your sovereignty. As a tribe, we need to go ahead. We need to keep pushing our sovereignty every single day. Push our sovereignty. Push it. Push it. Push it. Because the day will come. When that day comes, when we stop pushing our sovereignty, who else is going to do it? The government's not, right? They're not going to promote our sovereignty. So it's our responsibility to promote our sovereignty and to push our sovereignty. And so that's kind of the conversations we've had about that kind of deals with on the federal government side. And we have great people in place at the federal government level. Our ambassador, lobbyist, Ambassador Jonadev. He does a great job of briefing us on anything that's coming down the pike. We have lobbyists that do a great job, and so we're aware, and just because it's not on front page news doesn't mean we're not doing anything. So we do have people in place.
One of the first stops usually a tribal government will make is with the Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs. Do you gentlemen have any plans for meeting with Tara Sweeney and taking any concerns or new ideas or fears perhaps into that office?
Yes, I was contacted that probably our first step is to go to the Capitol to meet several individuals there, as well as NCAI. We're scheduled to go there next month, and our lobbyists there, as well as ambassadors, going to schedule meetings with us, with several representatives up there as well. So we'll get to meet. And see where we can go.
Okay. I presume this will be the last general topic area is, what are you going to do here now? Whenever a new administration comes in, there are changes to be made. Some call it cleaning house. Others say, the gentle sweeping of the carpet, so to speak. What do you have perhaps in mind for the people, for the employees here who work for the Mvskoke Creek Nation, both in the upper levels and in the lower levels?
Well, I did have a meeting with the cabinet yesterday and today. As I had mentioned in my platform and several, even in my statements, that I want to be equal to everyone. So all the, and I know what you mean when new administration come in, basically start with new cabinet members. Well, I will post all the positions. I want to give everyone an opportunity to apply and go through the proper process of being interviewed. And as I mentioned, I want to put the right person in place. regaining their trust is what I want, and that's the beginning stage of giving each one an opportunity to apply for all the positions that we have. And as far as the employees, I did discuss with HR to try to improve the employee protection. The Eastern Band of Cherokees, I believe, passed a law 2 years ago. Talking to the HR this morning, that's one of the things I want to pursue as well, employee protection. I want employees to come in and enjoy working for Creek Nation, to be proud to work for Creek Nation. But in the same sense, it's our job to protect them as well. I don't want them to have the fear of being fired for no reason. You have to, everything has to be documented, the proper procedures and everything need to be done. But I want us to grow from where we are at, and hopefully we can get there with everyone's help.
I've been with the tribe since 2005, so I've been through different administrations as an employee. So I know what it feels like, when a new administration comes in. There's that level of uncertainty that you have, but for the most part, I've never seen sweeping changes. And usually, but it's at the cabinet level that you usually see the changes. I mean, that's just the way it is. But I commend Chief Hill for sticking to his guns and sticking to his campaign promise that he's going to give everybody a fair shot of reapplying for their job, so I think that's fair. But for the most part, I've never seen like whole programs be wiped away. I'm thinking back. I can never remember. I don't remember that. It just hadn't happened. So I think there's people. There's a fear out there, but I think it's unfounded, to be honest with you. So and I know me and Chief Hill, we have the same. We think the same about our employees. We got to protect them. We got to empower them. Employees have to know what their job duties are. We got to be responsible to our employees and make sure they have the tools to be successful in their job. Because if we have an expectation of them, but we don't give them the tools to succeed, then who's at fault? It's us. So we got to make sure that employees have the tools to succeed in their job, and what the expectations are.
That's what I explained at one of our meetings, that we encourage Creek citizens to apply. But it's also our responsibility to provide them the tools, the training, everything that they need. If they are fired for their first incident or whatever, do they have the proper tools to work with, proper training? And who's at fault? Is that ours or the employees? It's our job to make our employees successful at what they're doing. So you could possibly blame, it could be our responsibility. Because I want every citizen to employee as well, regardless if you're a Creek or non-Creek, but you're an employee, you are a Creek Nation. And it's our job to provide the best services to our citizens. Because that's ultimately what we're here for, to provide the best for our citizens.
Gentlemen, that is pretty much all the questions that I wanted to ask you at this point. Is there a final thought that each of you would kind of like to leave with our viewers and listeners about what you got up your sleeve, so to speak?
Not up my sleeve, but we just ask for everyone to keep us in your prayers. That's the biggest thing is for right now, as far as me and Second Chief and the nation as a whole. Pray for us daily.
Yep. I concur. I mean, there's power in prayer, and because eventually we're going to have to make some tough decisions, and not just personnel wise. We're talking just because when you say we got to make the best decision for the nation, it's the nation as a whole, not an individual. And my dad told me a long time ago, you're not going to make everybody happy. So we just have to make sure that we have the proper guidance, and that when we make these decisions, that they truly are the best for the nation.
As I had mentioned in my speech Saturday, that we have a special blood that runs through our veins. You know, regardless, we're still here. We're Mvskoke people, and we're still here.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for taking time. As I said earlier, we will be back and probably put you on the spot as your administration goes along. So,
I know. Thank you.